The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Detroit Lions in convincing fashion, and we are here to talk about that. And we will end the video with the biggest question mark from this game. If you are very close to Chiefs football, you probably know what that is. And don't take my opinion very seriously. You shouldn't. The Chiefs are the only thing I cover here, though. So if you were here by chance and not design, consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more. Now let's get into what there is to talk about with this game. The Chiefs are back at 500. They have 11 games to win 7 games, which will get them to 10. 10 wins probably gets you into the playoffs. That means they can afford to lose 4 more games, which means they can keep up this win 2, lose 1 type of scenario and still make the playoffs. With the team that we saw last night, I do not think they are going to win 2, lose 1 very much more for the rest of the season. That said, I had no idea the Chiefs were going to drop the one they did to the Jaguars. I had no idea the Chiefs were going to drop the one that they did to the Chargers. So, when you take a step back and you look at the totality of what happened during the suspension of Rashee Rice, the Chiefs are probably, if you were being fair in the preseason, 1 game behind where you thought they were likely to be. I think all of us probably assumed there were going to be a couple losses in that opening 6-game stretch because it was a very tough stretch. Did I foresee those 2 of those 3 games being the Jaguars and the Chargers? No, not at all. But they were. That is what happened. They did beat the Lions. They did beat the Ravens, etc. So, all in all, coming out of the Rashee Rice suspension 3-3, you're probably only 1 game back from what it was you really thought they could be. I do need to issue a correction after yesterday's video. Yesterday I said that Mahomes was on pace to throw for 11 touchdowns. It felt wrong coming out of my mouth, and later I realized what I had done. I divided the wrong number by the wrong number. He was on pace to throw for 27. Now he is on pace to throw for 4,272 yards, or then he was on pace to throw for 4,272 yards and 27 touchdowns. After last night's game, that puts him on pace for 4,289 yards and 31 touchdowns. Not exactly 2018 Mahomes, but it is on a pretty good pace, especially for a guy that right now is getting legitimate MVP hype. So that is what that is. Now more notes on this game. This right here on your screen now, that is the ESPN Power Rankings after Week 5 of the NFL season. We just finished the game for Week 6, okay? I just want to put some perspective on what it was that the Kansas City Chiefs just did. Last week, pretty unanimously, the Lions were ranked the number 1 team in the NFL. Pretty much everywhere you look. The entry said this: after his first 1,000-yard season in 2024, Williams has started slowly in 2025, Jameson Williams, that is. He hasn't logged more than 50 receiving yards in 4 of the Lions' 5 games, as he works to get in sync with veteran quarterback Jared Goff and overcome drop passes. Williams is viewed as a risky option because he's averaged only 7.9 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues. He hasn't turned limited targets into production or delivered consistently this season, but he can still make big plays. That was the big storyline for the Lions through the first 5 weeks of the season, that maybe Jameson Williams wasn't being the player they thought he was going to be this year. That was the big storyline for the Lions. No longer is that the big storyline for the Lions. The Lions entered this game with the number 1 offense in the NFL. Jameson Williams hitting on all cylinders or not. The Lions entered this game as the number 1 offense in the NFL, and they left with 17 points. The Lions, and make no mistake, This is probably the most complete team that the Chiefs have faced to this point. Do they have injuries? Yes, they have injuries. Did anyone give the Chiefs that excuse earlier in the season? No, they did not. What about last year, an injury-plagued year in 2 different position groups? Did anyone give the Kansas City Chiefs that excuse then? No, they did not. You can't give it to the Lions now. In fact, they had a lot of players who were listed as questionable actually dress out. So, injured, okay. Jawan Taylor was injured all of last year. He never sat out. You don't get credit for a player sitting out or not. Doesn't matter. Who got the win? It was the Chiefs, and in convincing fashion. Not only was there an extra point left on the board that I think was blocked. Was that blocked? But the second quarter, midway through the second quarter, it was 4th and 2 at the 23 or something like that. They went for it on 4th down. If Butker is not struggling in that position, I think normally you take the points. It would have made it 10-9. It wouldn't have scored a touchdown, but you would have gotten the points. They went for it on 4th and they missed. This could have been a 34-17 ball game in ways that would not have changed the trajectory of the game. If you make that extra point, the Lions don't make any different decisions. If you make that field goal, the Lions don't really make any different decisions. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes, by scoring a touchdown or a field goal at a certain point, you completely change the outcome of the game because everything from that point, your aggressive play calling or your passive play calling, you're aggressive on defense or you're passive on defense, all of these different things. That being 1 point here and a field goal there, I don't think that would have changed anything. So this would have been likely the same course of events that led the Kansas City Chiefs to a 30-17 victory, only it would have been 34-17. This was a 2-possession ball game, and guys, kind of wasn't even that close. So far, the Chiefs have scored. So the Chiefs scored 30 points twice all last season. The Chiefs have scored 30 points twice so far this season, and they still do not have Rashee Rice back in this offense. Once Rashee Rice gets back, I think we all believe that the offense will be more potent. The interesting thing now, and I owe an apology to Juju Smith-Schuster. I was ready to write him off heading into this season. He's looked great. Where do you give the snaps? When Rashee Rice comes back, who gets the snaps? Who plays? Who's on the field? When Rashee Rice gets back, you have a bevy of talent. Who gets the snaps? I don't know. I don't know where it goes. Number 4 here. This season has been a roller coaster. You start very low with losing to the Chargers, get even lower starting 0-2. Then you have something of a good performance in Week 3, something of a good performance in Week 4, and then you lose to the Jaguars, right? So the reason I'm saying this, don't be surprised if we see a couple more disappointments somewhere along the way, right? We have been through seasons like this before, and so long as by the time the playoffs come around, everything is figured out, so long as by that time we know who this team is, then they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. This team is more talented than last year. They just happen to have more losses. 5 games in, they had more losses than through 17 contests last year. I still believe this is a better team than it was last year. Now on to the offensive line, and we will end this video with a point on the offensive line. But Jalen Moore did a really good job. Jalen Moore was more than serviceable out there. Had the Kansas City Chiefs entered this season with Jalen Moore as the tackle, I think they would have been okay. I think it would have worked out for them. It might have been, you wouldn't have seen the upside out there, but I don't think that they would have been in trouble. You saw a game with Jalen Moore against a premier pass rush, and you didn't notice him. In addition to that, I thought Kingsley Suamataia looked really good on a few running plays, and that's just a first viewing. I'd go back and look at some other things, but I thought that he looked really good on a few running plays. I think that Kingsley Suamataia is steadily and constantly and consistently getting better. He's showing up. He's showing out. He is proving to be a competent and strong run blocker. He has not, it's been a little while. Top of my head, I haven't looked back at every snap. Top of my head, it's been a little while since he's had an embarrassing pass rushing snap, or pass blocking snap, pardon me. So I think that what you're looking at with Kingsley Suamataia is a guy who is growing into his role, growing into the expectations of what it means to be a left guard in the NFL. Maybe we don't see the upside at tackle that I thought was there. Maybe he never grows into a left or right tackle during his NFL career. But right now, he's operating at a really good clip for an offensive guard. There were no flags on Jawaan Taylor. When you get this offensive line, the Kansas City Chiefs can dominate football games. Did they give up 3 sacks? Yeah. But one was Aiden Hutchinson and one was late. So the Aiden Hutchinson one you just have to write off. The one that came late, who cares? Game was already won. And then there was another one to their linebacker. But all in all, yeah, to that defense, if you're going to give up 3 sacks and only one of them was Aiden Hutchinson, it checks out. It checks out. The next thing, the Chiefs were the more aggressive team here, and it worked out for them. I talked about this in the game, in the video leading up to the game. I think that this team has to be aggressive, has to stay aggressive. It seems to be that is just the profile of this team. When you sit back and you get in just let the game come to you mode, this team seems to struggle. The defense gets picked apart. The offense never finds a rhythm. This is a team, for whatever reason, has to go out and be the aggressor, has to go out and make things happen, has to go out and dictate the pace of things. I think we even saw that a little bit with the way that the defense, I'm not going to say they struggled, but it looked, the defense was irritating at times. And it's because they weren't getting any pressure on Jared Goff. And you and I know Jared Goff can't run. And normally, Spagnuolo, when he's going up against the statue quarterback, can say, all right, we're going to dial it up to 11 and just make you deal with it. And they weren't able to get that done versus the Lions. So hopefully that what happens coming out of this game is the Kansas City Chiefs realize we have to be the aggressors. And with what happened with Brian Branch at the end of this game, I think they're going to be ready to be aggressive. I think that they are going to be very ready to say it's us against the world, our backs against the wall, and we're going to come out swinging. And if that's what happens with this team, I don't know that anyone can stop them. Now, we have yet to see the offense when Rashee Rice gets back, but I can't imagine that it's worse. They have scored 30 points twice this year versus twice all of last year, as we just talked about. I can't imagine getting Rashee Rice makes that average go down. The penultimate point here is this. This defense is weird. It is infuriating that Goff had all night to throw the ball. All night long, he had all night long to throw the ball. They could have taken that first snap of the game and just never thrown the football, and the game would still be going on. It's concerning that Nick Bolton still has to cover people, because that never seems to work out. He just looks lost out there in coverage. But they held the number 1 ranked offense in the NFL to 17 points. These guys were scoring over 35 points a game, 35 point something points per game coming into this game. And the Chiefs held them to 17. They held them to 17 points in a night where the defense made you want to pull your hair out. How is that I mean, this is what we saw the last 2 years too, right? One of the things that I keep saying in relation to this is, guys, I think that's just what a good defense looks like now. In today's NFL, I think that's just what a good defense is. Got holes, got problems. They can throw it around the yard on you, but you don't get scored on very much. 17 points to the number 1 offense in the league. And really, that last touchdown came awful late, right? I mean, at that point, the defense, I won't say was in prevent. I don't think it was in prevent. It did not strike me as prevent in real time, but it certainly wasn't in attack mode. It was kind of like, well, we want you to come to the line and run your play mode. And it worked. Once the Chiefs got their hands back on the ball, it worked, right?